Have we gone down the path of no return? Has the Rubicon been crossed with this Donald Trump indictment by Joe Biden's DOJ? I'm Dylan Hildreth. This is the Dylan Hildreth Show. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the Hildreth Media YouTube account. And if you're listening to this on one of the podcasting platforms, please make sure to download the podcast. It really helps out. And do all the necessary things on all the other platforms that this is on to get this out. Now, has the Rubicon been crossed with the Donald Trump indictment by President Joe Biden's Department of Justice, or injustice, I should say, by No Merrick Garland and Joe Biden himself signing off on this? Well, I'm going to be honest. I don't think we've crossed the Rubicon yet. We are right there. We are right at the riverbed. We are very, very close to that Rubicon. We haven't crossed it yet. But the move that would essentially be crossing the Rubicon is a potential guilty verdict on any of the charges that Donald Trump is facing, from Alvin Bragg to the DOJ to whatever the hell's going on in Atlanta. Anything that results in a guilty verdict against Donald Trump, that is crossing the Rubicon. That is the point of no return, and blood will be shed, and all hell will break loose. Because at the end of the day, this is America. We don't lock up our political opponents for being political opponents. This isn't Russia. This isn't China. But when you have a president that has been bought and sold by the Chinese, how different are we in the end from Russia, China? How different are the Democrats from Nazi Germany? This is the scariest time in America in a very, very long time. Maybe even ever, given the fate of democracy. And with roughly half the country, maybe even a little more, not having faith in the elections and their integrity. Ladies and gentlemen, this powder keg is about to blow. And I hope we don't cross that Rubicon. And I don't want to see bloodshed. I do not want to see another civil war broken out. But when you have a president who really isn't present, who someone else is driving that car, and it is someone incredibly radical, maybe Barack Obama, maybe Hillary Clinton, somebody is actually running this. And it's not Joe Biden. He does not have the mental capacity to do this. And you look at just recent history when it pertains to this particular case with classified documents. James Comey changed the laws so he wouldn't have to charge Hillary Clinton, who should have never had access to classified documents, let alone being on a private server. You have Joe Biden, who had classified documents dating back to the 70s. You have Mike Pence, who had documents. I mean, what else? This two-tiered justice system that's going on is extremely dangerous. What Joe Biden, the Biden administration, I should say, is doing, what the DOJ is doing, is incredibly dangerous for the country. And this open and obvious election interference. And trust me, I have no intentions on voting for Trump in the primary. I am a Ron DeSantis guy. But above all, I am an American. And I do not, the last thing I want to see, regardless of political party, regardless of view, is someone who is absolutely innocent being locked up for simply having different political beliefs, having a different political affiliation. Because this is, as I keep saying, this is America. This isn't China. This isn't Russia. This isn't Iraq. This isn't Afghanistan. And these documents, you have to prove that they were classified. They weren't declassified by Donald Trump. And that this doesn't fall under the Presidential Documents Act or whatever the hell it was called. But this is very, very dangerous ground. And this is a Pandora's box, once again, opened by the Biden administration, by the Democrats. This is not normal. Joe Biden was supposed to be, the pitch for Joe Biden was a return to normalcy. And all we have seen over the past 3 years is anything but normalcy. And that is completely on the Democrats. And this Jack Smith, if and the Democrat Party get their way, Trump would die in prison, as Mark Levin said. And for the simple crime of being a Republican, of being a conservative. I use that term loosely with Trump because Trump was more of a populist. But nonetheless, this is Pandora's box that has been opened. And I find it a little weird, almost like a coincidence. And if anybody's seen NCIS, rule number 19, there's no such thing as coincidences. That there was a $5 million payout from Ukraine to Biden while he was VP to have Hunter on the Burisma board and to get the Attorney General who was investigating Hunter Biden fired. I mean, and nothing is more irritating to me than seeing a corrupt administration sit here and cry corruption on a guy who I don't think he's never shown any sort of being corrupt. When you look at the way Trump ran the country for 3 years, he did a phenomenal job. The economy, great. Foreign policy, which was my biggest concern when Trump was coming into office in 2016, that was his best feature. We haven't had a president this good on foreign policy in decades. Trump brought peace to the Middle East, for crying out loud. And if you look through history, there is one trend that comes with political prisoners, especially ones that make it as high as President of the United States. One trend. They went against the military-industrial complex. Donald Trump ended wars, never started any. You look at Richard Nixon, same thing. You look back at John F. Kennedy. He didn't want to go to Vietnam. He didn't want to go to war with Vietnam. And he got shot for it. Yeah. I see you, CIA. I see you, FBI. Now, and Donald Trump, he falls in that category of being against the military-industrial complex, not starting any wars, therefore they can't ramp up and they can't make money. And with Joe Biden being accused of of pretty much committing treason, what was his response? Let's take a look, shall we?
Where's the money? I'm joking.
Mr. President,
it's a bunch of malarkey.
Where's the money? How about you explain to me, Joey? How in the world do you have multiple houses, a Corvette, millions of dollars in worth as a senator? Especially given the Durham report that's come out, giving us the connection between China and Hunter, and it's not that far of a grasp between Hunter and Joe, especially given that Joe won't acknowledge his granddaughter, and that Hunter used a private jet to go down to Arkansas and say that he doesn't have enough money to pay child support, and then took the private jet back. I digress. They are openly admitting to selling this country out through sarcasm and trying to play it off as sarcasm because they think you're stupid. The Democrats think that you, the people, you, the Americans, that we, as Americans, are too stupid to snuff it out. It cannot be more clear. And even the dreaded Hunter Biden laptop, 10% of the big guy. Let's assume 10% of the big guy is still a thing. How much money have we sent over to Ukraine? 10% of a lot is still a lot. Now, that is my Donald Trump rant, and this whole America diving into civil war, or on the cusp of it at least. Another guy has been a very busy man this month on this glorious Pride Month. Matt Walsh. He got to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of What is a Woman? His hit documentary that has been, I've watched it twice. It is absolutely phenomenal. And I highly recommend you watch it, whether it's on Twitter, the Daily Wire. however you can watch it. But yesterday, Matt Walsh released a thread on Twitter, on the Twitter sphere. And pretty much going after the trans healthcare and seeing how easy it is to get this letter to be able to get the life altering trans surgery. And I will leave the I will put the start of the thread in the description below for you to look at. But Matt Walsh tweeted in a thread, the largest trans healthcare providers in the US are rubber stamping letters of approval of approving gruesome life-altering surgeries. It is such a racket that my producer was approved for testicle removal in 22 minutes. And then there was some background stuff, but pretty much his producer, who went undercover as someone who is suffering from, well, he wanted to get his what cut off. And after he got the stamp of approval to get the surgery after a 22-minute Zoom call, the where was it? What's it called? Plume? Yeah, Plume is a trans healthcare organization who helps with getting people the recommendation to get these horrific surgeries. And pretty much Matt Walsh's producer was able to get this in 22 minutes through a Zoom call. He later expressed to the person that he doesn't have gender dysphoria, but he was still able to keep the letter of recommendation without the people at Plume to adjust the recommendation, and pretty much saying that you need this letter so that the surgery can be covered by health insurance, which is insurance fraud, knowing full well that this person is not suffering from a mental condition that you are saying that he has, and you know fully well that he does not. This is the most open form of insurance fraud, and that every single attorney general in the country should be going after these groups, Plume Clinic and Folx, FOLX. These people have openly committed insurance fraud, God knows how many times, allowing people who would either A, grow out of gender dysphoria and become gay, or actually need legitimate help. They didn't help. That getting them these surgeries does not help them. It only deteriorates their quality of life, which no sane person would say is a good thing. And for the people saying that, oh, they just want to live their true self. You can't be your true self when you come up with a character in your own head of who you want to be. That is not physically possible. That is not your true self. That is a character you made in your head. Your true self would be growing up naturally. And if you go on to be gay or lesbian or bi, whatever, that's fine. But to sit here and say that you are of the opposite gender is just not correct. It is a false reality that will never be true. And then they begin to chase that reality that is never true, trying to find a piece of themselves that just isn't there, that just isn't real. And playing into that delusion does not help. It does not help the person who needs the help. They need to be in front of an actual therapist working through these issues, not a trans activist pretending to be a doctor. Because that's what these gender mutilating surgeons are, pretend doctors. And every single person who has done these gender affirming care, whether they are 16 years old or 46 years old, they should be stripped of their medical license and thrown in prison for the rest of their lives. Because this transgender ideology is incredibly, incredibly dangerous and should not be tolerated. And all these people that are suffering from gender dysphoria, actually truly suffering from gender dysphoria, should get actual help that they need. Because playing into someone's delusion does not help them, it hurts them even further. And having to take these medications and do these things to make sure that they don't get infected and potentially die is not a high quality of life. And it needs to, this ideology needs to end. Now, not only did Matt Walsh unveil this bombshell report, but he also was able to unveil the teammate of William, currently known as Lia Thomas. Her name is Paula Scanlon. I apologize if I butcher the name, but she had a sit-down interview with Matt Walsh, and she was in the What is a Woman documentary, but she was the anonymous person in that documentary. But she had a sit-down interview, and this is a little bit of what she was having to deal with while at the University of Pennsylvania and having William Thomas as a teammate on the girls' swim team.
I mean, what are those girls? Do they say anything? Do they register any kind of protest against that?
Yeah, actually, one of the girls, was very upset. She went crying to the athletic department, and something in that conversation, I don't know what they said to her, but she then was completely on board and thought Lia swimming was like this magical, beautiful thing.
This magical, beautiful thing. After going in and being and crying about it rightfully, that you have to assume that this girl who was uncomfortable changing in a locker room with a biological man, fully intact, I may add, and to come out with a complete change of heart, I can only imagine what she was threatened with. And yes, I'm using the term threatened. Here's cut two.
They said, "Don't talk to the media. You will regret it."
Is that a direct quote? You will regret it?
Yep. Another thing they said is Lia swimming is a non-negotiable. And then they provided us with counseling services to help us be okay with Lia swimming.
Counseling? For what? Being comfortable being naked in front of a man in a woman's locker room? Pennsylvania, the Penn is an Ivy League school. It is supposed to be the best, the brightest, the most diverse thought in America. That's what the Ivy League's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the brightest among us. And to force women to change in a locker room in front of a man, a fully intact biological man, and to be threatened when they are uncomfortable with it, and to, if you speak to the media, you will regret it. These are 18 to 21-year-old girls being threatened by Pennsylvania, by the Ivy League, by the NCAA, that if you speak up, you will regret it. Now, I am not yet a father, but I can promise you this. If you threaten my daughter like that, and I don't care what age she is, there is going to be hell to pay. You think you have seen the angriest of people? Wait till someone in my family gets threatened like that by someone who is supposed to protect these women. Not throw them in the lion's den. You're put, and again, I've used this quote several times. You're putting you're putting the fox in the hen house and then wondering what the hell happened to all the chicken in the morning. I can't even fathom what these women went through, being forced into silence and having to change in front of a fully intact biological man in Lia Thomas. And how selfish does someone like Lia Thomas have to be to not only be in the switch over to the women's team, but to take a trophy from a biological woman who he tied with in Riley Gaines out of Kentucky, and to call yourself a champion and then cry about it as soon as you get actual true backlash from Riley Gaines. From now, and I'm going to wait for him to cry again from what Paula has come out with. And I really hope that more people from Penn on the swim team come out and share their stories, because these stories need to be told. Because it's not just these women, but other women, as young as 14, 13-year-old girls being subject to having to share a locker room with biological boys. And it's not right. It's never been right. It never will be right. And it's just disturbing. It is sad. And this crap needs to come to an end. It's not right. It is not okay. Now, and Joe Biden, he spoke about the transgender kids and saying that they are all of them are our kids. Take a look.
These are our kids. These are our neighbors. It's cruel and it's callous. Not somebody else's kids. They're all our kids. They're the kids, and our children are the kite strings that hold our national ambitions aloft. It matters a great deal.
They're all our kids. It's everybody's kid. No. My kid is my kid. Your kid is your kid. Your kid's snorting Parmesan cheese off a hooker's ass. I have yet to be fortunate enough to have kids, but I can promise you they're not going to be snorting Parmesan cheese off a hooker's ass. But the Dr. Jordan Peterson, he won Twitter for the day with this tweet here. Are they my kids too? Sincerely, the evil clown. For those that are on podcast, it has a picture of Pennywise from It. So, Dr. Jordan Peterson, he wins Twitter for this episode. So, kudos to him. And so the New York has been suffering some air quality issues as of late. This one is actually not New York's fault for once. But nonetheless, it is the Democratic policies that have kind of led to this. Just not from American Democrats, just from Justin Trudeau, who he's lost track of all the alphabets, all the letters of the rainbow alphabet. Here's that.
I will never apologize for standing up for an LGBTQ2 plus kids' rights.
What's the 2 stand for? I'm genuinely curious. What does the 2 stand for? But anyway, that guy who definitely isn't Fidel Castro's son has pretty much allowed this whole wildfire thing to completely go out of control and poisoning New York City, even worse than what it already is. Although, I guess on the bright side, the New York streets, they've never been this safe. You won't get mugged now on 5th Street. So, I guess you take the good with the bad. But nonetheless, and then last but not least, since this is a pretty heavy Matt Walsh episode of the Dylan Hilder Show, Matt Walsh, he has been a big proponent of the aliens, and there's a whistleblower saying that aliens definitely exist. And, I do believe aliens exist. I think it's very naive to believe that we are the only living beings in the whole universe. But I mean, I don't think it's that big of an issue, unless they start attacking us, but that's beside the point. But yeah, I do believe that there's aliens out there. This whole whistleblower saying that the government has aliens out wherever, again, I'm not surprised. I believe the government has some kind of space alien ship stacked away in Area 51, and maybe a couple of alien bodies. But nonetheless, it's very naive to believe that we are the only people, we are the only living, I would say intelligent, but given the current state of the United States, I'm not going to say intelligent, but the only living, the only planet that has life on it, I think is very naive. So that is, oh, yeah. And one last thing, the old Gavin Newsom is trying really hard to set up the country for a full-blown dictatorship with a 28th Amendment. Here's the proposal.
I'm proposing the 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution to do just that. The 28th Amendment permanently enshrines 4 additions to the laws of our land. It raises the minimum age to purchase a firearm from 18 to 21. Because if you can't buy a beer, you shouldn't be able to buy a gun. It mandates universal background checks to prevent truly dangerous people from purchasing a gun that can be used in a crime. It institutes reasonable waiting periods for all gun purchases. And it bans civilians from buying assault rifles, those weapons of war our founding fathers never foresaw. This will guarantee states as well the ability to enact common sense gun safety laws.
Okay, shut up, you stupid moron. So the quote unquote assault weapons. Nobody's saying that they use AR-15s for hunting, because they're not for hunting. A lot of the big boom booms aren't for hunting. They are for potential government tyranny, which is the original reason why the Second Amendment is there and why shall not be infringed was put there. And I've made this proposal. I don't know if I've done it on this platform yet, but if I had the power of some kind of ultimate ruler of the United States, so, BlackRock, what I would do is I would institute in school curriculum, and from freshman, a 4-year course from freshman to senior, gun safety courses throughout all of high school. How to use them, how to load them, how to clean them, how to take them apart, how to put them together. The whole shebang. Everyone will know how to use a gun inside and out, and would understand the power that comes with having a firearm. To sit there and try to ban firearms, which is essentially what this Pandora's box opens. To ban assault weapons, to take the guns away. If somebody, especially in government, is trying to take your guns, they are probably planning on something you would shoot them for. Now, Gavin Newsom, he's in line in the Democratic line to one day potentially become president. And we know from the Trump indictment, they are power hungry and want to make this country into a singular party system. And the best way to do that is take the guns out of the people's hands. That way they can't fight back. And my favorite is the whole you'll never take on the US military. I hate to break it to you, bud, but the US military would be on the side of the people, because the Constitution comes before orders. To uphold the Constitution trumps everything else. If your commanding officer is to give you an order that would directly violate the Constitution, you are obligated to disobey that order as given when you are sworn in into the military. You have an obligation to defy that order. So, no, the absolutely unhinged Democrat Party would not be able to take over this country in that fashion, because it would not work, because they have the military has a duty to uphold the Constitution. But that is all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're listening via podcast, please make sure to download it. I would greatly appreciate it. And we will see you next time on the Dylan Hilder Show.